The song is finished. I can hear it playing from the speakers. It feels like hearing a memory spoken out loud. Every note is a ghost of a decision I made. This final version is polished, but I remember when it was just a mess of ideas. This finished piece of music holds all of that history within its layers, a story only I can fully hear. This journey started with a simple feeling, a small, persistent thought that I needed to create something. It was about the act of making, not the final product. I wanted to see if I could follow an idea to its final echo. It's a roadmap of my own creative mind. The song exists now as a complete thing, separate from me, yet entirely made of me. This is the story of that journey, of how a tiny, formless idea grew into something I could finally share. It began in silence, not just the absence of noise, but a creative silence, an empty canvas. I had one idea, a simple flicker of a thought. It wasn't a fully formed melody or a powerful line of poetry. It was more of a feeling, a color, a mood I wanted to capture. I had no lyrics written down. I had no chord progression in mind. I had absolutely no clue where this journey was going to take me. All I knew was that I had to start. I had to face the quiet and make the first sound, no matter how small or imperfect it was. The goal was to make something real, something honest. In a world of polished productions and perfect performances, I wanted to embrace the raw edges of creativity. I wanted to build a song from the ground up, starting with nothing but that initial fragile spark. It was a personal challenge, a way to prove to myself that the act of creating is valuable in itself, regardless of the outcome. It was an exercise in trust, trusting the process, trusting my instincts, and trusting that something meaningful would eventually emerge from the chaos of experimentation. This project was about more than just music. It was about confronting the resistance that every creator feels, the fear of the blank page, the voice of self-doubt that whispers in your ear, the temptation to give up when things get difficult. I decided to lean into that discomfort. I wanted to show the struggle, the moments of frustration, the deleted files, and the abandoned ideas, because that is where the real work happens. That is where you learn and grow. The breakthroughs are only meaningful because of the battles that come before them. So I sat down with my instruments and my microphone. I opened a new, empty project file on my computer. The screen was blank, a digital void waiting to be filled. The cursor blinked rhythmically, like a patient heartbeat. It was both intimidating and exciting. This was ground zero. This was the beginning. Every choice from this point forward would shape the final song. This is the story of what happened when I decided to break the silence and turn a single, fleeting idea into something that could be heard. Every creation begins with a reason. Sometimes it's a message, other times a personal need. For this song, it came from a place of stillness. I needed to reconnect with the very essence of making things, to rediscover the simple joy of creation. This song was an answer. Could I still create just for the sake of creating? The challenge was to be fully engaged in the act of writing a song, to embrace the unknown. The motivation was to rediscover the playful part of myself. It is a vulnerable act to start with nothing. The real story lies in the struggle, in the moments of doubt. It is okay to not know, to be imperfect. The real strength is in starting anyway. It was a search for authenticity, a commitment to the journey. To begin this journey, I needed a set of tools, but I decided to keep them simple. The goal was not to get lost in technology or endless options. It was to focus on the core elements of the song itself. Too many choices can be a form of creative paralysis. By limiting my tools, I was forcing myself to be more resourceful and to focus on what truly mattered: the melody, the harmony, and the words. The heart of my setup was my computer running a simple digital audio workstation. This was the canvas where all the sounds would be painted and arranged into a final picture. My main microphone was a standard condenser mic. Nothing too fancy or expensive. It's a microphone I've used for years, one that I know intimately. I know how it captures the warmth of my voice and the bright snap of a guitar string. Using familiar tools is like having a conversation with an old friend. There is a comfort and an intuition there that allows you to bypass the technical and get straight to the emotional. Alongside the microphone, I had my old acoustic guitar. Its wood is worn and it has a few scratches, each one a memory of a song written or a chord fumbled. Beyond the physical instruments, my most important tools were my notebook and a pen. Before any sound was recorded, the ideas had to start somewhere. The notebook was that place. It was a space free of judgment where I could scribble down lyrical fragments, draw diagrams of song structures, or just write down feelings that I wanted to translate into music. Unlike a computer document, a notebook page can be messy. It can be filled with crossed out words and arrows pointing in every direction. It is a perfect reflection of the chaotic, non-linear nature of the creative process. Finally, the most crucial tool was silence. In a world saturated with noise, I intentionally carved out quiet spaces to work. Silence was the raw material from which the song would emerge. It was in the quiet moments between recording takes that I could truly listen to what the song needed. It was in the silence that new ideas could whisper their way into my consciousness. These simple tools, a computer, a mic, a guitar, and a notebook, all surrounded by silence, were all I needed. They formed the small, contained world where this song would be born. To make this challenge meaningful, I set a few rules. Like the walls of a garden, they provided structure and focus. Rules can be a powerful creative catalyst. My first rule, create everything from scratch. No pre-made loops or samples. The second rule, a 1-week deadline. A deadline is a powerful motivator. The final rule, be honest. Document the entire process with all its messy and uncomfortable truths. This commitment to honesty was the guiding principle. The first day was defined by an intimidating emptiness. The initial excitement faded, replaced by the stark reality of a blank page. I sat with my guitar, but no music came. The silence grew louder. The blinking cursor was a reminder of my inaction. I moved to the notebook, but the page remained just as unforgiving. I wrote single words: lost, echo, fading. The only genuine feeling was frustration. What if the well was dry? The pressure of the deadline began to creep in. Every unproductive hour felt like a failure. I was caught in a loop of creation and rejection. The desire to make something real was paralyzing me. The silence had become my enemy, filled with the voice of my own inadequacy. The second day was a massacre of melodies. I ditched lyrics, hoping a strong instrumental would spark something. A delicate piano line, a simple bass, a pulsing beat. Pretty but soulless. Delete. Switched to acoustic guitar, tried upbeat folk. The music was cheerful, but my mood wasn't. Delete. This cycle repeated. Build. Hope. Realize it's not right. Delete. My hard drive filled with abandoned beginnings. The from-scratch rule forced originality, but every choice felt monumental. No shortcuts, no loops, just me, the silence, and endless restarts. By day's end, I was surrounded by discarded melodies. The real struggle wasn't starting. It was finding something worth keeping. With some music ideas, I turned to lyrics and hit a wall. Every line felt cliché or pretentious. Free writing led to chaos. Structure felt like a cage. I obsessed over the opening line, rewriting it endlessly. Each failed attempt made the task feel impossible. The harder I tried, the more hollow my words became. The lack of lyrics made the music feel empty, and vice versa. I was stuck in a loop, music and words exposing each other's flaws. The song was a half-built house, shaky and uncertain. My self-doubt was the storm threatening to tear it down. Sometimes you have to tear it all down. I had a full arrangement, but it felt forced and soulless. The lyrics tried too hard, the melody was forgettable. Keeping it would betray my goal of making something real. The decision to delete was terrifying. Days of work, gone. Logic screamed to keep tweaking, but my gut said no. I deleted everything. The screen went blank. Dread hit, then relief. I wasn't just deleting a song, I was freeing myself from frustration. The silence felt like a new beginning. Starting over brought a new challenge, self-doubt. My inner critic was relentless, questioning every move. Every chord felt inadequate, every idea scrutinized. The creative process became a battle, external struggle for ideas, internal struggle for belief. I compared myself to others, feeling like an imposter. The lowest point, day 5, nothing to show but doubt. I sat in silence, surrendering to the feeling, not giving up, just accepting where I was. In that quiet, the fight ended. I was finally ready to listen. The breakthrough came quietly by accident. I picked up my guitar, not trying to write, just playing. My fingers stumbled on a strange, unresolved chord. Instead of dismissing it, I listened. The sound matched my mood. Honest, imperfect. I recorded the simple phrase, looping it. No layers, no pressure, just the melody. It felt real, a small light in the darkness. The desire for perfection was gone. Something genuine could finally grow. The answer wasn't forced, it was heard. With the melody looping, I opened my notebook. This time, I didn't aim for poetry, just honesty. The first line, I'm tired of fighting. It felt raw but true. I sang it over the melody, it fit perfectly. That one line unlocked everything. The lyrics flowed, simple and direct. They told my story, not just about creative block, but about me. The song was no longer something I chased. It was finally speaking back. Honesty had broken the cycle. The song was real at last. The momentum was undeniable now. The energy in the room had completely transformed from one of desperate struggle to one of joyful discovery. With a solid melodic foundation and a core lyrical idea, the other pieces of the song began to fall into place almost effortlessly. I started by adding a simple bass line, one that just followed the root notes of the guitar chords. It wasn't anything fancy, but it gave the song a warm, grounding weight. It was like adding the second leg to a table, making the whole structure feel more stable and secure, ready to hold more. Next came the drums. Remembering my from scratch rule, I didn't reach for a drum machine. Instead, I created a beat using sounds from around the room. I tapped a pen on my desk for the hi-hats. I thumped my chest for the kick drum. I snapped my fingers for the snare. I recorded these simple sounds and layered them into a soft, organic rhythm. The beat had a human feel, with tiny imperfections that made it breathe. It clicked perfectly with the acoustic guitar and the vulnerable lyrics. The song was starting to develop a personality, a unique and intimate character. The most magical moment came when I recorded the main vocal. I sang the words I had just written. My voice wasn't perfect. It was a little raw, a little tired from the long week, but it was honest. As I sang the line, "I'm tired of fighting," I could feel the truth of it in my chest. When I layered a second harmony on top, the song suddenly blossomed. It went from being a simple sketch to something that felt full and emotionally resonant. All the separate pieces, the accidental melody, the honest words, the organic beat, were locking together, each one making the other stronger. I listened back to the loop, now a rich tapestry of sound and emotion. I couldn't stop smiling. This was it. This was the song. It was not the song I had imagined I would write at the start of the week. It was something better because it was real. It was a direct product of the struggle, a beautiful thing that could not have existed without the frustration and the failure that came before it. The empty project file was now filled with music that felt like mine. It was the sound of a breakthrough, the sound of finding your way out of the dark. The song had a heart, a skeleton, and a voice. Now it was time to give it skin. This final stage feels like dressing a character for a role. The additions had to serve the song's emotional truth. I started by listening to the main loop, trying to hear the spaces. The song itself would tell me what it needed. I added a simple string sound, a soft pad underneath the main vocals and guitar. I took the original acoustic guitar part and reversed it, creating a strange, swelling texture. These small details are where a song truly comes alive. Finally, I recorded the last few vocal harmonies to bring a little more color to the story. The song was reaching its final form through a series of small, thoughtful additions. There is a dangerous phase near the end of any creative project, the temptation to endlessly tinker. Mixing is balancing tracks, adjusting volumes, panning, and adding effects. This is where you can get lost for days. My 1-week deadline forced decisions. I focused on the vocal, the heart of the song. Once the mix was done, the hardest part began: letting go. A song is never truly finished. You just stop working on it. I had to honor the entire journey, including the imperfections. I exported the final audio file. The final act of creation is an act of acceptance. It is the art of saying it is done. With the final file saved, there was only one thing left to do. I put on my headphones, closed my eyes, and pressed play. Listening to the finished song for the first time is a strange and surreal experience. It's no longer a collection of parts I'm working on. It's a single, complete thing. It has its own life now. The song that played back was the one I'd spent a week fighting for, crying over, and celebrating with. It was the sound of my own journey, condensed into 3 minutes of music. It was like listening to a ghost of my own experience. Every sound told a story that only I knew. I could hear the accidental melody that started it all, now confidently leading the song. I could hear the organic beat made from desk taps and finger snaps, a reminder of the from-scratch rule. I heard the lyrics, that single honest line that broke through my writer's block, now sitting at the center of the song's emotional core. It was a time capsule. It captured the frustration of the first few days and the quiet relief of the breakthrough. The song was more than just music. It was a testament to the process. The feeling was not one of pride in the sense of accomplishment. It was more a feeling of gratitude. I was grateful for the struggle because it led to something real. I was grateful for the self-doubt because it forced me to be more honest. The song was not perfect by any professional standard. A top producer might find flaws in the mix, and a literary critic might find faults in the simple lyrics. But it was perfectly honest. It achieved the one goal I had set out to achieve, to make something real, from scratch. It was a true reflection of a moment in time. As the final notes faded into silence, the same silence where the journey began, I felt a sense of peace. The creative urge that had started this whole process was now satisfied. The empty space had been filled. I had taken a formless feeling and given it a voice, a melody, and a final form. The song existed in the world now, separate from me. And I existed separately from it, changed by the act of making it. The journey was over, but the song remained, a permanent echo of what it feels like to create. The song is done, the week is over, but the process leaves behind lessons. The first lesson was the power of surrender. Real progress started when I let go of control and began listening. Creativity responds to openness. Building everything from scratch felt limiting at first, but it became a source of freedom, forcing me to find my own voice. The most unique elements often come from our limitations. Creativity thrives within a smaller space. I also learned a crucial lesson about honesty. It is about being honest with yourself. Finally, a finished product is just a byproduct of the process. The real value is in the making. The person who finished this song is not the same person who started it. If you are a creator, this message is for you. Your journey is your own, but the struggles are universal. Embrace your limitations. Start with what you have right now. Be honest in your work. The world needs your unique perspective. Create from a vulnerable place. That is where you will connect with others. Give yourself permission to play. Create for the simple joy of creating. Nurture that playful part of yourself. It is the part of you that holds the most magic. So what happens now? In creation, there is no final chapter. There is only the end of one cycle and the beginning of the next. The process of making has filled me with more energy, more questions, and more ideas. The silence has returned to my studio, but it feels different now. It feels like a space of potential, a clean slate ready for the next idea. And that journey is never over. It is a continuous loop of silence, struggle, breakthrough, and release. The goal is to become better travelers, to navigate the difficult parts with more grace, to appreciate the beautiful moments more deeply, and to always be ready to start again. The journey continues.